New Transformers trailer just dropped, and it's still looking pretty good. I'm a little skeptical about the terror cons, because the terror cons look very different from what we're used to, and I guess we're not gonna have the combiners in this movie, because they freaking confirmed Unicron is gonna be the big bad, and I'm like, what? Paramount confirmed that this is the first of the new trilogy, and Bumblebee is like the prequel. So, how are you introducing Unicron already in the first movie of this new trilogy? Would it make more sense for him to be in the third movie? Because Unicron in the original Transformers was like this major big bad who comes at the end of season 2 before like the new big bad becomes Galvatron. I guess that's what they're going for, but they haven't even introduced Megatron in this new trilogy yet. So isn't that a bit backwards? Because in the original Transformers, it was like Megatron, and then after him was Unicron, and then after him was Galvatron. Like that was the original Transformers, and then you go into Beast Wars. So I'm very confused why they're going all out and introducing Unicron already in the first movie of this new reboot trilogy. It would make more sense for it to be the combiners, because you're confirming Predacons and you're confirming Terracons, so any G1 fan would be like, oh, okay, I guess you're gonna make them fight the combiners, which I feel would be a much better story plot compared to like friggin' world-ending Unicron who friggin' eats planets. So I'm very confused why they would go all in with this movie. It feels like they're making this movie be like a spiritual successor to the original Transformers 1987 movie, which went all in with like the big bad, and Unicron was also the big bad in that movie too. You haven't even brought in Starscream and Megatron yet, and you're already bringing in Unicron? What the heck? What gives? It would have made more sense if you like introduced Starscream and Megatron and then escalated to the combiners, and then the third one would be Unicron, or maybe even Tripticon. I don't understand why they're already introducing Unicron, because I feel like if they're gonna have Megatron and Starscream later, like going from Unicron to Megatron is very big step backwards. I don't know how that's supposed to work, because if you're already going all out for the first movie of your trilogy, like what's left afterwards? Are you gonna have a Unicron and then Megatron and then Megatron becomes Galvatron? Because the original Transformers, Megatron becomes Galvatron. Galvatron's technically not a separate character, so I'm not sure what they're aiming for here. I mean, I guess they're not doing the whole cinematic universe thing anymore because that would cost money. But I don't know, having everything condensed into a trilogy feels too small for the scale that we expect of Transformers. So I'm not sure what their third movie is gonna be if they're already bringing Unicron into the first movie of the trilogy. So the new trailer hasn't shown Rhinox's robot mode. I'm sure it looks fine because it's still only shown the robot modes for Optimus Primal and Cheetor for the Maximo so far. Rhinox and Air Razor are still like in their animal form, so I guess that's gonna be like spoiler territory. Wheeljack, they finally showed his robot mode, and I'm not a Wheeljack fan, but even though I am not a fan of his design. I don't know how we went from Wheeljack in Bumblebee to Wheeljack in the trailer, because I saw pictures of his toy that's going to be released, and I was like, wait, that it looks like a Transformer, but it does not look like Wheeljack, because Wheeljack has never had like goggles, so I'm like, why are you giving live action Wheeljack goggles when in Bumblebee his Cybertronian form didn't even have any goggles. Like he actually looked on point with his G1 design. So I'm like, why is you taking a step backwards with Wheeljack? I was like, first of all, like the coloration of the Volkswagen itself was already like, why pink? That doesn't make any sense. Like at the very least, you could have done like green with red accents. I'm like, or maybe they're just afraid that people will be like, "Oh, that's a Mexican minibus." I'm like, "No, that's his friggin' color scheme. That's Wheeljack." So yeah, I don't know why they decided to go pink for the Volkswagen, and then his robot mode just looks, it doesn't have the right silhouette. Like that feels like the right silhouette for Ironhide, but it doesn't feel like the right silhouette for Wheeljack. Because like looking at his robot mode, if you take off the goggles, his like head sculpt feels very Ironhide. And I have to wonder if like they actually intended the Volkswagen minibus to be Ironhide and they decided to change it to Wheeljack at the last minute. Cause this feels like what happened in Bumblebee, where it's like, oh, is this gonna be Starscream? It's got the head sculpt of Starscream. It's got the color scheme of Starscream. But no, it's Blitzwing, and I'm like, I feel like they're repeating the same mistake with Rise of the Beast with Wheeljack, because I mean, pink is like a different shade of red too. So I feel like at one point of production, Wheeljack was supposed to be Ironhide, and then they decided they're not, but they already went through with filming of the Volkswagen, or maybe they decided not to go with Ironhide and changed him to Wheeljack because RC already has like a pretty strong like red coloration, which doesn't make sense. She's supposed to be pink because in Bumblebee she was in her classic white and pink color scheme. I am very confused as to the art direction of the characters. Because, like, I mean, RC looks fine, but it's like, if you compare her to her Cybertronian form, it's like, the transition is weird. It's like very jarring. And then they gave her, like, sunglasses too, which I feel was unnecessary, but I mean, she still looks fine compared to Wheeljack. I don't know, like they tried to like put some sort of like ear flaps on him. Like you can see like a glimpse in the trailer where he shows him at like kind of like a turn sideways and he's got like a little remnants of like ear wings, but I'm like, no. If you look at him head on, it's like his silhouette does not evoke Wheeljack. It actually evokes Ironhide even more. And then when he's like that battle scene where like RC is like joining up with him and Wheeljack is like shooting, it's like that feels very like a very Ironhide pose. I am so confused. Like what the heck? It's like this doesn't feel like Wheeljack. So yeah, that's been my biggest complaint with the new trailer. I'm still gonna see it despite all the very horrible woke marketing around it, and also with all the issues surrounding Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, and then this whole D&D debacle. But I'm like, it's Transformers. Like I have to see it. I have to see it, regardless of how bad it is. I have to see it. I mean, I skipped out on Bayformers, but I'm like, I already knew that was bad after like the second movie. I was like, oh, this is going downhill. So yeah, that is Rise of the Beast. There's a lot of creative decisions going into this movie that I find very questionable, especially if they're going with a trilogy, but they're going all out a bit too much with the first movie. And I feel like it's gonna be interesting, but I don't know if they're gonna be able to pull a cohesive story out of this. Like I feel like they're introducing too many like G1 elements at once. I don't know if it's gonna work out. Well, it depends on the runtime. Hopefully, the pacing of the story won't like drag too much because it looks like they're gonna focus on like Mirage and I guess RC because there's another female human character who's like partnered with RC, so it's gonna be those two because Bumblebee already had this movie, and then or the main plot is like Optimus. I don't know. Not looking too good with that Wheeljack design. I'm hoping that's a transitional look, or I don't I don't know if I can handle seeing him. I mean, he looks better than in Bayformers. He was known as Q, which is like, oh my gosh, nightmare fuel. That's like my sleep paralysis demon right there. But it's still like, come on, guys, you had him so perfect in Bumblebee, and then you do this for Rise of the Beast. What a freaking downgrade. I'm scared if they bring Jazz. I'm really scared now, because, I mean, Michael Bay already screwed him up in the first Transformers movie. So I kind of hope they bring Jazz, but at the same time, if this is how they're already treating Wheeljack, I don't know if I can handle another massacre of my boy Jazz. It's like, come on, he's not that complicated. Just get him right. Just get him right. Yeah, I'll still watch it. It's coming out in June, right? Yeah, I think it's a June release. So that's still like another month or so. I want to say I'm looking forward to it, but I am still hesitant at this point. I just want it to be good. Just give us a good Transformers movie, like Bumblebee. Then I'd be happy. Make the trilogy good. It's like just give us four good G1 style movies, and we'll be set. All right. So that'll be all. Until next time, this is Zero Raptor signing off. Laters.